Hey, fourth grade. My name is Mr. Crocker, and today we are going to be talking about civic duty. So last time we talked about government and democracy and how a democracy is a form of government where the people have the power to govern themselves. And part of what that means is voting, getting to choose who represents you in government, getting to have some say in what the government is allowed to do. And another part of that is the responsibility part. So, as citizens, okay, as members of the country, we all have responsibility. We all have some amount of responsibility to participate in and sort of just help with the process that we want. And one big way that people help, one big way that people perform their civic duty is by participating in juries. So when a person goes to court, and they're being seen before a judge, maybe they're being tried for a crime they might have committed or might not have committed. A lot of times there's a jury there. And they get those people just from the public, just normal people like us go and serve in juries and hear the cases and decide whether people are guilty or not. Okay. So I wanted to share something with you. I'm going to put it on my screen now. And this is on Readworks. So if you've never been to Readworks before, go to readworks.org. Here, I'll even sign out. Okay, so your screen when you go to readworks.org should look like this. And you're going to hit the student login. Okay, and then you're going to put in your class code. So your teacher will give you a class code. This is my class's code. It's GYBGX2, but you'll have a different code for your class unless you're in my class. Okay, so I'm going to continue. And then I'm going to pick my account here. Okay. And then here are my assignments. And you might have to use this to go to the next page like I just did. And it's American Government Jury Duty. Okay. So this is a picture of a courtroom. Okay. And this looks like where the judge would be. And then in these seats, I think you would have jury members who are hearing a trial. Okay. So we'll go ahead and read through this and look at the questions. It says, one day I got a curious letter in the mail. I had never seen anything like it. I didn't recognize the address, but it seemed to be from the government. I opened it. The letter said that I had to appear in court for jury duty on May 23rd. I was excited. I was eager to learn more about how courts work. I might even get to serve on a jury. So this really happens. The government, sends out letters. And if you get a letter, they will tell you a date and you have to appear. And you might think of it as an exciting thing like this person is. And, it might also be kind of difficult for people because you can't work on those days. Or if you have kids at home and you have to be at the courthouse all day, you will have to find a different place for your kids. But it's part of performing your duties as a citizen. It's something that everyone has to do at some point in time. Okay, besides voting, I know jury duty is one of the most important responsibilities I can have as a citizen. Jurors work to make sure that each person accused of a crime gets a fair trial. Serving as a jury is another way that the people have power in the United States government. I felt honored I would finally be able to play such an important role. So, like they said, if you are accused of a crime, then if that goes to trial, okay, to find out whether or not you are guilty, there will be a jury there who listens to both sides of the argument and makes the final decision. Okay, next paragraph. On May 23rd, I went to the courthouse and sat down in a room with several other people. First, some men and women came in and asked each person some questions. The men and women were the lawyers for the prosecution and the defense. They were choosing the jury for a case involving a woman who had sued a doctor. Did I know the woman or the doctor? Had I ever had an experience with a doctor like the one in this case? The questions were to make sure I would be totally unbiased. So unbiased just means that you don't already have an opinion one way or the other, because they want you to make your decision as a juror based on the facts of the case. And if your mom maybe just had a problem with a doctor where this doctor was treating her unfairly, and then you get picked for this jury, you might be more likely to convict that doctor just because you know your mom was treated badly. And so that's what the lawyers are talking to these people for. They're trying to pick people who they think will make a decision just based on the facts of the case, who will be unbiased. Okay, I must have passed the test because later that day I found out that I had been chosen to serve on the jury. Next, the lawyers met with us and explained the rules we had to follow. Once the case started and I was in the courtroom, I could not talk to anyone about the case. I could not even read anything in the newspaper that had to do with the case. Most importantly, I could not talk to any of the lawyer or witnesses in the case. All the information I would hear about the trial had to come from the courtroom. Otherwise, I might be influenced by people's opinions instead of by the facts. So that goes back to what we were just saying about bias. When a jury is serving, they really want the members of the jury to only make their decision based on what happens in court, not what people in the news think, not anything else. Okay, and so they keep these jurors, they call it sequestered, where they're almost like isolated, so that they're not hearing other things that might influence their opinions. Okay, finally, I was told I had to pay close attention during the trial. It can be very tiring to sit and listen all day. Still, I would need to listen to every question and every answer that the lawyers and witnesses give in court, or else I might miss an important piece of evidence. So evidence, those are the pieces of information that the lawyers give for the jury to use to make their decision, right? It could be a fingerprint. It could be something found at the scene of the crime. It could be a piece of clothing. It could be a lot of things. It could be a car. The trial lasted 3 days. During the trial, all of the members of the jury sat on benches on one side of the courtroom. When the trial ended, I went into a separate room with the other members of the jury to talk about the case. We deliberated for hours and hours. So that means that they're talking about it. They're deciding. We knew that our decision was very important. We were deciding whether the defendant was guilty or innocent. So the defendant is the person who is defending themselves, so it would have been the doctor making a decision about guilty or innocent. Everyone on the jury has to agree, or there can be no verdict. So if half of the jury thinks he's guilty and half of the jury thinks he's innocent, that's what they call a hung jury, and that person can't be convicted. It has to be clear that they did it, or that the evidence has to make a strong enough case that they did something for a person to be convicted. Everyone on the jury has to agree, or there can be no verdict. After all of the debating, we went back into the courtroom and announced our verdict. Okay, so the verdict is like their decision, guilty or innocent. Okay, so that's what jury duty is like. You get a letter, you have to go in. It could take several days, even weeks or months possibly. And then after all of that, the jurors make a decision about whether or not they think a person is guilty. Okay, questions. According to the text, who makes sure that a person accused of a crime gets a fair trial? Well, the prosecution lawyers are the ones who are saying, yeah, he did it. The defense lawyers are the ones saying, no, he didn't. The jurors are listening to both sides. The witnesses are telling you what they know about the crime. So who is there to make sure that things are fair? Number 2, how does the author provide information about jury duty in this text? By listing definitions of legal terms. I don't remember seeing a list. By telling the details of a juror's personal experience. You know, when we read this story, I got a letter. This is being told from first-person perspective or first-person point of view, okay, as though it is happening to this person. So it is their experience. By giving a history, I don't remember a lot of history here. By arguing that juries are not the best way to decide, I don't think they say that. Number 3, read these sentences from the text. First, some men and women came in and asked each person some questions. The men and women were the lawyers for the prosecution and defense. They were choosing the jury for a case involving a woman who had sued a doctor. Did I know the woman or the doctor? Had I ever had an experience with a doctor like this one in this case? The questions were to make sure I would be totally unbiased. Based on this information, what can you conclude about why lawyers ask potential jurors questions? The questions were to make sure I would be totally unbiased. Okay? I think they want people who are familiar with the people in the case. If they're familiar with the people in the case, they probably already have opinions about them. And they're going to use that to make their decision, not just the facts in the case. Lawyers try to make sure that the jurors they choose do not have any biases. So they want them to be unbiased. That's what that's saying. Lawyers do not like to have a jury of people who like to go to the doctor because they tend to agree with people in the medical field. That's one of those questions that the lawyers would have asked at the beginning to see if that could be an unbiased person. Okay? But the question is asking us, why did lawyers ask? D, lawyers can only ask the jurors questions about their jobs, not about other parts of their lives. We know from reading this that that's not true. Have I ever had an experience with a doctor like this? That's not about your job. That's a personal thing. Okay, number 4, which statement best explains why jurors sometimes spend a long time trying to decide if the defendant is guilty or innocent? Okay, why does it take a long time? They have to decide in 3 days by law. The jurors can never talk to each other. Jurors have to stay in a room for 2 hours. All the jurors have to agree. Which one of these things would make it be a long time? Okay, what is the text mostly about? Main idea. How lawyers ask questions to choose people for juries. You know, I remember reading that, but I don't think they even told us what questions. Why jurors privately meet and decide. What jurors do and what it's like to be on a jury. Why the author does not enjoy serving as a juror. It seemed to me that the author was excited about it. In paragraph 1, I might even get to serve on a jury! Exclamation point. I was eager to learn. If we look at the back, or at the end, there aren't a lot of feelings in that end paragraph, but I don't think that we really got anything that would make us believe that he stopped being excited. There's not complaints. Okay, and once you've answered 5, just hit submit. I'm going to end this. Okay, so the point of reading that was just to give you an idea of one type of civic duty or civic responsibility. And civic responsibilities are ways that citizens can have responsibility and also some power in our democracy. So jury duty is a good example of exercising civic responsibility, helping the government. Okay, have a nice day.